Ryan,
Oh, hey.
do you know what we're doing today?
I do know what we're doing today.
No, you're supposed to not.
I'm,
Okay, you're.
I came unprepared. I actually don't know what we're up to.
Okay, yeah, good. See, God, he's so good at recovering that. If you haven't seen the title, we're going to be talking about, amongst our group, somewhat a controversial thing: the Unearthed
Oh,
Arcana. Hmm. Specifically, what
interesting.
about it? You ask, because
Yeah,
it's been around
what
for a little
is
bit.
Unearthed Arcana?
Essentially, um, I mean, the Wizards of the Coast put it as best as you could put it, in all of the pages of their things. They say that it is playtest content. The material in this article is presented for playtesting and to spark your imagination. These game mechanics are in draft form, usable in your campaign, but not refined by final game design and editing. They aren't officially part of the game and aren't permitted in D&D Adventures League events. If we decide to make
Hmm.
this material official, they will put it in a book. So basically, it is non-official material that
So
you
it
can
ain't
throw
ready
in
to
your
go in my
thing.
game?
Well, it is and it isn't. It's up to you, Ryan, as a DM, which you
Okay.
are occasionally. Uh, but you got to talk with your friends about it. And a lot of this, since it's playtest material, it's not super balanced and hasn't been tested by the community, the people who play D&D.
Yeah, I think it's often overbuilt, and then if you notice, whenever it gets finally released into some actual book, it's trimmed down a lot and
Mm-hmm.
contains sometimes even contains more features. I guess it depends. But things sometimes will appear to be overpowered, underpowered right now, but I think they're definitely unlikely to stay that way as it gets play tested.
Yeah, that's the tough part about it. Is I mean, we really haven't been through a large edition other than Xanathar's guide, right? To subclasses or even just classes in general.
Yeah, for 5e.
It's been when did I mean? Do you know when Xanathar's came out?
I can find out.
Do it. I'm curious,
Xanathar's
actually.
Guide to Everything came out in the year November. Oh, wow, actually, longer than I thought. November 15th, 2017.
Yeah, I figured because it's been a bit. We're coming up on, well, not 3 years. So like we just passed 2 years.
Yeah.
Back in, oh well, probably it's November right now. So it's been about exactly 2 years since it's probably come out. Uh, but that was the first edition. I don't remember it being too crazy, other than adding some new stuff to Warlock because they were lacking in things. The
Ranger
Hexblade,
got some
which
nice
apparently,
stuff.
yeah, Ranger needs a
I mean,
lot of
honestly, I
things.
think a lot of the subclasses they added in Xanathar's are very good. I like a lot of the stuff that they changed and worked on for those.
It makes the player's handbook seem boring, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's an effect I don't enjoy about this new material, and it just eclipses the bare bones
Yeah, there's some
experience of the first thing.
nervous people thinking that, there's going to have to be a player's handbook 2 coming out or something because a lot of it, like you're saying, it just seems to eclipse what has come before. And not really like, in like card games or other games where they say power creep exists, where it slowly things get better and better and better. I don't know if that's exactly what's happening here. It feels boring to choose one of the player's handbook stuff. And let's say it's the only one you own, and then Johnny over here is getting player's handbook too, and he's got all the cool stuff, and you just feel maybe a little left out.
Yeah, so that's particularly in our case what happens with me. I see all these fancy new things, and I'm like, bruh,
I want it. I want it now.
I want it because I'm the specific player I'm like, how we talked about in last episode. There are people who want to stick to what they had from the beginning because that's this character, and they don't want to change it. They don't want to do a respec. But then there's people like me who just want all the cool shit
I want to
all
have
the
fun.
time. Yeah, and I'm already having fun. A lot of D&D is just your group doing things and making the game your own, but it's so weird with a free form experience like D&D because there's already what do you call it, homebrew stuff,
Yeah,
and this
lots of
isn't
it.
any different. This is basically Wizards of the Coast
Yeah,
homebrew.
yeah. Mike Merles and the Jeremy Crawford and those guys. It's their it's just their homebrew stuff. And I mean, I guess technically all of D&D at this point is their homebrew stuff until it gets published.
Yeah, so it's weird, and I believe in September they started releasing new subclasses within the
Yeah,
Unearthed
Unearthed Arcana has
Arcana.
been around for a long time. They had I don't know if you've heard of the Artificer class that came through Unearthed Arcana. Now it's getting a full release in the new Eberron
Yes,
book that I think
Eberron.
is out by the time that we're recording this. At the very
Possibly,
least,
I read
it's
a thing on Google of it like
yeah. I
just a few
think I
moments
think it came
ago.
out Thursday or something last week.
Damn.
I'm definitely gonna pick it up at some point because I love Eberron type of stuff. But So that's been teased about. I remember when the first Unearthed Arcana came out for it, and people were like, "This is, I don't know if this is a little overpowered, this is a little weird." And I assume the final edition that's in the book years later is much better than it was then. I guarantee these will all be in a book in a few years, hopefully.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that, of course, games go through transitions. If you looked at Halo 2 versus Halo today, you wouldn't think it's the same game.
Yeah.
But those are different installments, different games. This is the same game, but with additions to it. So it's back to that, what do we use, what do we not use? And again, this is all up to your party deciding what you want to bring into the game in terms of resources.
And there's multiple ways to look at the stuff. How we'll be kind of looking at it is like the lore-wise, the RP stuff, and then also the mechanical stuff. Because, I mean, obviously, when you're playing the game, if you're a player, sure, you're going to be thinking about the RP stuff, but I guess it really depends on the group that you're with. But mechanics are a super important part. You don't want to be, choosing some subclass just because it's got really cool RP stuff, but then you feel like you're nerfed in combat and most other things. I mean, that's kind of like what we did with Braxton's character in our game, where he was originally the great old one tome lock guy, and I remember you just felt like you weren't doing too much.
Tome locks don't do anything. The main part of I guess it's
rituals.
Warlocks are weird. They don't really have a subclass. They have a patron, and then different things they can do with that patron.
Yeah.
So it's like a subclass, and the things that you can do with the tome. The largest thing about a warlock is their invocations and basically features they can plug and play with.
Mm-hmm.
Tome had nothing. You could
and
not
lore-wise,
sleep.
Braxton loved the kind of Lovecraftian Cthulhu-esque stuff, and so that's why he went with it. And it was really fun to mess with, but outside of that, you weren't feeling like you were doing a lot. And so you switched over to the old Hexblade so you could do something in combat.
Yeah, I think something you could do for having the tome is talking with your DM about how to interact with it.
Yeah.
Because occasionally there would be some flavor here and there, but I feel as though Sorcerer has their book, and it's such a key part of that class.
Wizard?
Yeah, thank you, because I don't play anything else.
Yeah, Sorcerer doesn't have a book.
Warlock. But Warlock gets this book, and it's cantrips. That's it.
Yeah,
but nothing happens in it.
I guess invocation-wise, you get the ritual and stuff, but yeah, overall, it's not too much compared to some of the other stuff.
Not at all. So that already set me up to want to take the bait from all of this new fancy pretty stuff. And
yeah, we're not going to be covering it today, but the most recent edition, they added a bunch of invocation stuff for Tome Lock, and we'll be covering that probably next week.
Yeah, it was really cool. But today we're going to start with the Unearthed Arcana subclasses for the first two we'll cover because they're on the same page, but it's Sorcerer and Warlock, Barbarian Monk, and the Bard and the Paladin. They all got a few new subclasses. Some even got two.
Did they?
And the first page we're looking at right here is the Sorcerer and the Warlock,
which are my two favorite classes because I love the flavor on both of these bad boys. Tons of fun.
And the first, second, third thing on this page, with even in contrast a gray box around it, is this is playtest content, and then that passage that I read to you. So right off the bat, they're making sure that that you aren't having to insert this into your game right now. This is not something that just is and exists. It's not
like we talked about last week with being a good player. Talk with your DM before you just decide to be the Aberrant Mind sorcerer. Make sure it's okay with them.
Yeah.
But lore-wise, the Aberrant Mind guy, I mean, just reading the first couple words, an alien influence has wrapped its tendrils around you. That sounds badass, man. That sounds super cool.
It's basically everything that I've wanted out of Warlock.
It's super cool story potential, I think, in that. Like, it even mentions it's aboleths, which I love, mind flayers, the far realm. I mean, what else do I need to be in love with for this first paragraph? I love it. Far realm stuff is badass.
Yeah, and there's even more, like another contrasting box, unique disturbance, and it just goes more into how it affects you. And
yeah, it says like there's always a sense of dread around you. You feel like you're being watched all the time. Oh man.
Sorcerers can read a creature's mind with detect thoughts. which is a lot of what I've been wanting to do. And I think I'm kind of maybe getting away from that with my character right now, but we'll see how it goes. I'm open to stuff because this is something I'm really interested in. But of course, if I went with this right now for a new campaign, eventually it would come out officially and I would have to change or really consider the thought of, this is the official material. What do we do? This is how we've been playing.
How do we deal with it?
So that's the scary thing about going with Unearthed Arcana, is because it will be eventually a regular Arcana.
Probably will take some time.
Yes.
Like I said, the Artificer, I think, was out for a couple of years before they finally released it in the Aberrant book.
Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of controversy around it right now. People are scared it's going to break the game.
Oh, man.
You can control your game. You should be okay.
Yeah, but, and I hope it doesn't take years for this stuff to come out. So I like I said, a lot of the flavor stuff, I really like where they're going with it. I could see a couple of different book directions, and I'm hoping it'll come out nicely.
Well, you've got the sort of like Mad Mage of Kavoth kind of fits this bill. He's insane and eccentric, and having the chance to play maybe this sort of anti-hero or just a weird, wacky character like this, one that isn't wide-eyed, bushy-tail, a crazy, aberrant mind, would be really fun in a game.
Yeah, it includes a lot of psionic stuff, and I think psionic stuff is really cool. I know that the D&D guys, the Wizards of the Coast people, have been really kind of trying to itching for some psionic stuff and trying to make it into its own magic ability, like how there's like conjuration and stuff. They're trying to make it its own magic class. But I guess the issue with that is then you'd have to rework mind flayers and all that jazz.
Possibly, yeah.
But I do like
this
psionic spells, and I think it's cool that they're kind of pushing for that.
Yeah, me too. In any game, I usually will go with... I'm not a huge fan of necromancy, but it's going to be summoning things, like a summoner, some sort of esper or psychic or psionic person, or ghost-based things. Those are my... I love that. Kind of occultic stuff. That's my favorite. And we'll talk about Pokemon later. That's what I do.
No. So mechanically, though, so we've kind of covered the base lore stuff. So mechanically in this guy, first level, it's almost like a little bit of the Awakened Mind Warlock stuff I see.
A little cooler.
Yeah, but cooler. Definitely cooler. You can telepathically link with anything around you. But I mean, I guess the difference is that it's technically there's a time limit on it.
There's a time limit, and they can speak to you. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I guess you can. I mean, there's nothing to say. You can't just immediately continue it after the 10 minutes are up. There's no limit on the ability.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is quite interesting.
It's basically
it's like Mercy's heal, I suppose, but a bit more extended. If you're healing somebody and they walk through a wall, you can still heal them for a bit, but that runs away if they're disconnected. So you can link with somebody. That you can see
now, does Awakened Mind,
lasts.
They have to understand languages too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so just making sure that's the
I don't
same
think it's just,
across the board.
Yeah. So it's a bit different, but something else that's kind of, it seems like, inspired by Warlocks as well as their first level Aberrant Mind feature of psionic spells. You get access to certain spells that aren't, they don't take your spell slots as well.
Yeah, this is the biggest thing, honestly, from this sorcerer subclass, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's really cool. You learn additional spells when you reach certain levels in the class, as shown as the Psionic Spells table. Some of them are Arms of Hadar, Dissonant Whispers. You know, you can take a look at these. I don't even know what Rary's Telepathic Bond is, but the spells count as a sorcerer spell for you, but does not count against the spells you know.
Do you know why this is so big for a sorcerer?
Sorcerers are tied to spells, aren't they?
Yeah, well, this is the only subclass that has this many extra sorcerer spells. This is a huge boon for any sorcerer. So I could feel, even if they don't like the Aberrant Mind stuff, going for this just for the extra spells.
Yeah, that's a lot. Those are a lot of Warlock-based spells.
Yeah, if anything's going to be changed on this, on the sorcerer thing, I think it might be this psionic spell list because it's just so much bigger than all the other sorcerer subclasses.
And I think this subclass gets the most things at first level.
Let me double check on sorcerer stuff because I think just all sorcerer things get that many things on first level.
Okay, I'm a warlock boy. I don't know about anybody.
Yeah, I was trying to make sure to because I don't really make too many players. I was trying to check all the other first level things. Okay, it's about they all get about 3-ish things.
Okay, that's cool, man. Oh man. Woo.
We'll
have to cut that out.
I need the Heimlich.
Yeah, I'm super sick. I told Ryan not a podcast until one of your hosts is sick on episode.
Yeah, I haven't been sick yet, knock on wood, but
Oh boy, something's going around Chicago. A couple of my colleagues have been sick.
Oh,
Keller
no.
got sick. My brother a while ago.
It's that time of the year.
I somewhat feel like a warped being when I'm sick.
Nice. But
Like
your AC goes
sorceress.
down actually when you're sick.
Shit. I mean, that makes sense though. So this warped being ability you also get at first level. You are able to change your body according to certain imagery. Like you get a tough hide or scales or turn into slime or have some
that's
sort
really
of
cool.
barrier around you. So it makes it to where you don't need armor. It's a way for you to get a higher
This is
AC.
really cool. Obviously, just character roleplay building wise, but also, I mean, it gives the sorcerer some much needed AC in combat. From
So you're not a squishy
13
boy.
plus instead of starting at 10. I could see a player in our campaign would like that.
Oh yeah, you got some big buff guy coming swinging a sword at you, and he's like, you got no armor, and you are a twig. You are not going to dodge my hit, and then he hits your psionic barrier, and you're like, what you gonna do now, bro?
Yeah, you're not as much of a glass cannon as in the past.
Yeah, and they're
quite
pretty, extensive about telling you about the rules. Like ACs don't stack, so if you already have this or that, like if you wear armor, this doesn't stack with that. You lose the warped being ability.
I also want to point out if you guys are listening to this and able to look along at these pages with us, the unique disturbance thing that we talked about earlier, these little gray boxes. I feel like you can also see which ones the wizards of the coast people care about the most, because as you get to the other subclasses, these boxes disappear. They don't exist anymore. So they definitely are mostly, they talk about this like later with the warlock stuff, how you can describe these tentacles that come out, and then the other ones just doesn't exist. You have to come up with it yourself.
Yeah.
That's all right.
It's okay. Warlocks are cool. So are sorcerers. They're secondary cool. Then it keeps going, and of course, you get your 6th level and 14th level, and then 18th or 20th level. The 18th level one is kind of crazy, but do you want to go in order?
Yeah. We can cover them pretty briefly here with the 6th level stuff. It just adds some more resistance, and you can, take some more stuff. I like the resistance to psych damage. It's a cool little touch. It's not too
Typical
crazy.
mid-level stuff, nothing crazy. Some other classes get weird, crazy things.
Yeah, and it allows you for
14th
more
level.
spells to be used. Not too different than other meta magic that's already used. So I don't think it's too out of left field.
No,
Nothing
not at
too
all.
nutty.
But the revelation and the flesh thing,
very
I
cool.
feel like some 14 level abilities can be lackluster, but this one is where your body becomes more altered by your patron or whatever influence you're obsessed with. Like you gain a swimming speed, or you can now fly as fast as you can walk, or you now are ooze and all of your equipment and you are slimy. Like what?
Yeah, and it only takes a sorcery point, right? I believe, to do each of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at those, they don't seem too crazy. I don't think any of them are gonna break anything. I mean, there's some cool. I think the only minorly crazy one is that you can see invisible and hidden creatures within 60 feet of you.
Yeah, but it's fine because your eyes turn black, or they become writhing sensory tentacles. So you just have fucking tentacles coming out of your
imagine
eyeballs.
Explain that to your buddy. What the
I
hell
can
is that,
see
dude?
My eyeballs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nothing to
By the way,
freak out
there's an
about.
invisible assassin coming at you right now.
It only lasts for a minute too, which is another important thing. So you could start spending spell or sorcery points pretty quick if you use these a lot. So I think it's good to have a set limit, and we'll get to a subclass later that does not have a set limit on something, and it can get pretty intense, pretty broken.
But how about a thing that you can do once per rest, but you emit a 20-foot radius aura around you for an entire minute?
Are you talking about the 18th
Anybody?
level?
What?
Are you talking about the 18th level spell
Yes.
ability thing?
Warp reality.
Oh, man.
So you emit a 20-foot radius aura for a minute. Rippling psionic energy, fluctuating amoebic gel, anything that's kind of with the themes of this subclass. But anybody that steps inside of it takes 2d10 psychic damage. Okay, that's fine. But also, you can teleport anybody that fails a save within it that is in this aura to a location that you can see within a mile of you.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's pretty far. But if you can see that far, that's some good weather to do at the time.
Well, yeah, what if you're on a mountain and you're fighting something? And you
It's
just
important
go...
to keep in mind, though, this is 18th level.
Yeah, yeah.
There's already crazy shit hitting the fan at 18th level. So
So if somebody's teleported a mile away from you, they can probably get back.
that, or you can use an actual spell to teleport. You can plane shift at these levels. Plane shift is just an action, so it's not like this is too out of there. I think flavor wise, I can imagine describing this happening, and just I think it could be really, really cool.
Well, it's really fitting. You've played Subnautica, right?
I have.
Yeah, there are those weird, I would say, psionic creatures that are near the. Okay, spoilers for Subnautica. Ryan, have you beaten it?
Yeah, there's an end.
Kind of, yeah. But have you seen these creatures I'm talking about?
Maybe I don't know.
Okay, spoilers for Subnautica.
I've seen most of the game, so probably.
Right, so there are these creatures that are around a certain thing that you can come across, and I'll keep it vague. But they teleport you away because if you're within a certain reach of you, so this fits. It's great, and as Ryan said, it's 18th level. So as we transition into the otherworldly patron for warlocks, Lurker in the Deep, some things are not so level appropriate.
Well, I think this is a cool GTFO card. If things are starting to hit the fan, you can just get all your buddies out of there real quick. Again, it's 18th level, so if things are hitting the fan, it's probably pretty dangerous. So let's just get like some guy's about to cast power or death on your friend. Let's just get out now. I mean, because like just to compare it to one of the 18th level sorcerer ones from Xanathar's is Unearthly Recovery, and this is definitely. I mean, this sorcerer is quite different already. It's just a divine type of sorcerer, and theirs is just get a lot of health back. So basically, as a bonus action, you have fewer than half your hit points. You can regain a number of hit points equal to half your hit points maximum back. And that's pretty powerful in and of itself. At 18th level, that's a lot of hit points you can regain as a bonus action.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, Umbral Form. I mean, 18th level, you get some pretty nutty stuff. So I don't think it's too crazy. I think it's pretty cool. And I don't know. What are your final thoughts on this sorcerer here?
I love it. It's something that I would absolutely play if I was wanting something familiar to a warlock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'd probably be all over it.
Yeah, this is a good transition point. I think thematically they're very solid in the sort of imagery they're wanting to go with it. The abilities aren't too far-fetched, and I don't see it breaking anything. The psionic spells can be a bit
Mind Flayer-esque, I'm all about, man. I'm digging it. I don't
see this one ruffling any feathers.
No, and I think, and I'm doing this I'm gonna be thinking about this for a lot of them. What book they could be going with? Like, if these are all going to be in one book, what type of thing it could be? And so far, I'm leaning towards either a Dark Sun book because it's got some kind of cool psionic stuff going on with it, or a planar book, a book that covers multiple different planes. Like a manual of the planes from the older editions, and includes these these character options in there. I could see that happening. I don't know what plane this would be. Oh, far realm, of course.
I think going with that, a lot of the basic D&D stuff is just deities. So I think you're correct in saying that something that has, if you're not creating your own world, something that has otherworldly alien beings with it would be awesome.
Yeah.
But going to otherworldly patrons for warlocks, I think this one needs. It's amazing, and I love it, but it needs some refining and dialing back.
I know, I can't know what your thoughts are if they land where they are when we first talked about this. Mine have actually changed a little bit, so I'm interested to talk about it.
Interesting. Okay, all right. So,
the Lurker in the Deep.
If you didn't already think warlocks were crazy and cool enough, and the planes and gods that they could interact with, this one is something a bit less crazy, I would say, because it's still something of the Earth, of the planet you live on, but it's
or I mean, elemental plane, not necessarily.
True. That's yeah. So to start off, they give examples of you making a pact with a kraken or an ancient primordial, possibly something that has existed since the dawn.
Yeah, there was an old kraken warlock that one of the D&D guys had posted, and this is probably a refined edition of that.
I think it would be amazing. Imagine the sea pirate crew from Pirates of the Caribbean, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Could be really cool. So again, it's just a bunch of flavor talking about what you can do with it. And then there's another one of these great boxes, the Lurker's Clutches.
Yeah, I like that.
Several features of the Lurker in the Deep create tentacles or a maw that reach into the world. So you're pulling your patron literally in the world to interact with you. It's one of the first warlocks I feel that has this super deep, immediate connection to
Yeah, because it
whatever
even
patron.
says that you are kind of the eyes and ears for your patron, where in the other ones, sometimes the patron just doesn't really acknowledge your presence. Like it's like, oh, this is this guy that worships me, whatever. If he helps me out, I'll give him some stuff, blah, yada yada. But this one, you're actively a part of its service.
It's so cool. And Ryan, I'm letting you know this now, and we're going somewhere right now. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at being very interested in the moral dilemma of, do I serve this my patron or do I not? So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens.
Warlocks get an expanded spell list. Yay! A lot of it's the same stuff.
Since
Like
you're a big
Everett's Black
warlock
Tentacles.
guy, this will probably be something you can talk about.
Yeah, create or destroy water. Hey, thunder wave, gust of wind, silent lightning bolt, sleet storm, control water.
Lightning bolt's
Everett's Black-
huge.
Yeah,
That's a huge spell to give some warlocks, especially because once you get to the higher levels and you're using higher level spell slots, that's brutal.
So, can any other subclass use, like, can they cast Lightning Bolt as a higher level spell, or are they locked to third?
You can, yeah. You can, let's say, like, if you have access to 6th level spell slot, then yeah, you can cast a lower level spell at a higher level
Makes
spell
Warlock
slot.
feel even less cool. I thought that was a Warlock thing for the longest.
Well, that means you have to. They can choose if they wish.
Yeah, so it's a limiter, actually.
Yes.
But starting off, these abilities, this has the most text to it, I think, aside from the Barbarian that we'll get to. That one's crazy. But you get a Grasp of the Deep. At the first level, you can gain the ability to magically summon a cool-ass spectral tentacle that hits people.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual weapon for the clerics and stuff.
It's really cool, and it lasts for a minute, and it does either, I think, cold damage or lightning damage, 1d8.
Yeah, you describe what it looks like.
Yeah, it slows people down by 10 feet, and when you reach 10 level, guess what? It does 2d8 instead.
Yeah, it continues to get better as you level up, too.
Yeah, so, yeah, like a familiar tentacle that you can just cast and whack people with. How cool is that?
So yeah, cool. I think a lot of stuff that they cover in this subclass is, like, kind of helps balance the low amount of spell slots that you have. Allows you to do other things instead of just instead of becoming melee warlock because you run out of spell slots.
Well, that's what's so cool about getting more spells, especially ones that do multiple things.
Yeah,
with
lots of
one
utility
casting
options.
of it. Like Armor of Agathis is such a great thing to use early level for a warlock because you're not cast and done. Things that do that are what you're looking at getting on your spells, and so having new things is great. There's another level 1 thing that is mostly for flavor, akin to the Awakened Mind, where you can telepathically communicate with people. This allows you to telepathically communicate with anything that's of the sort of similar nature that your patron is, like an aberration, a beast, an elemental, within 120 feet of you. It can understand and respond as well.
As long as it has an innate swimming speed.
Yes, it has to be able to do
key.
the swim-schwams. And then eventually at 6th level, you get some cool flavory things. 6th level is always just kind of like a piece of popcorn. You're like,
just to hold you over.
Yeah. So this is kind of similar to the sorcerers. You are able to act more like your patron or the thing you're obsessed with, breathing underwater, have a faster swimming speed, gaining resistance to cold damage.
I really dig all that stuff. I think it's, like you said, small enough that's not a big deal, but it plays into just what your patron is very nicely.
Because really, if you think about it, a lot of the setup for your player characters is this is the beginning of their journey. And maybe when they start leveling up in a warlock, it's their first interaction with this patron, and it starts changing and transforming them. You're not as cold anymore.
Yeah, they get gills.
Yeah, the sorcerer could literally get gills or grow wings or do things like that. The next feature is where you get sort of a utilitarian thing. The tentacle that you can create can help you defend or protect people. Any creature that takes damage within 10 feet of
10 feet is also very huge.
Yes, you can use your reaction to choose one of the creatures and reduce the damage. So this could be really cool. Okay, so I'll have to think. This is the patron, right?
Yeah.
You'll have to think about this with me. Like, currently, I am a Hexblade blade lock.
Yes, and technically, Hexblade, it's supposed to be from, like, the Shadowfell or something, but we tweaked it to
we changed
fit.
it.
Yeah.
So you could be a Lurker in the Deep blade warlock or a Lurker in the Deep tome warlock, or et cetera, et cetera.
That's right.
So that tentacle could be very useful if you're going to be a blade warlock trying to protect, like be a protection person,
Yeah.
kind of like that. So
So it's
that would be
important
cool.
to keep in mind that the tentacle does vanish after you do this.
Yes, it does. So if you're wanting to protect somebody and you've got your tentacle out right now, you're going to lose it. This is where things get kind of crazy. Starting to get strong. Strong point, Brian. If you want to take this.
Yeah,
one,
Devouring Maw, the big old 10th level spell here. I think it's really cool. It's an insatiable hunger, the insatiable hunger of your patron, that is, and so it's from a kraken. That's pretty badass. That's pretty sick. Like the maw of the kraken could like a kind of manifest in the area within 60 feet of you, and it just starts kind of draining the people with some cold and lightning damage. And I mean, I think it's really brutal, really sick. Also gives some heals to you as well, and I think it can also help. I mean, obviously it says this. I think with this ability, it can help. When we mentioned this earlier, help with the limited amount of spells you have. This is basically like a spell that you get, and I think that's very cool. It gives you a little bit of heals too.
Yeah, I think that's a good step to take with warlocks. They already do that somewhat with invocations that allow you to cast a spell without expending a spell slot. To be honest, I think the invocations that you can get that allow you to cast a spell using a spell slot are the dumbest thing. Just put the spell in my spell list.
Right.
Why does it need to be an invocation? Like,
yeah.
Why? What are we doing there, Wizards of the Coast? That is so useless. No.
I can see your frustration.
It's annoying. It's like, oh, I can cast Bane without using... Nope. Spell slot. Sorry.
That would be cool, yeah, if it had a limit on it, like you use it once per long rest or something.
I know in every game there has to be bad and good things for there to be a certain amount of depth.
Yeah.
Like in card games, like Magic the Gathering, there has to be shitty cards because originally it's a trading card game. There has to be cards that are just better.
And it's got to work in like a draft format too.
Yes. So there has to be, Pokemon or abilities that just aren't as good as others because flavor, I guess. So, random tip for everybody that our group didn't know for the longest time until it was brought up: temporary hit points don't stack. This is on this here. So if somebody gives you 20 hit points and you gain 5 hit points, another temporary hit points after that, it doesn't go to 25 temp. It stays at 20. You attain the largest number you receive.
Yeah. Well,
so that's good for you guys.
You don't have to. You can decide which one, but I don't know why you wouldn't choose the higher number.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless you're feeling real crazy.
Well, that could run into some things like maybe you had Armor of Agathis hit points and you had 5 of them.
Right, and someone gives
But then you get regular, like you get 10 regular, but you're like, no, I want to keep the 5 Armor of Agathis ones because I don't think they transition to 10 Armor of Agathis ones.
Yeah.
So that might be a case like that.
That's true. Look at you thinking.
I am thinking. But I don't know what Wizards of the Coast was thinking with Unleash the Depths. Again, 14th level, it's kind of high, yeah.
That is very high.
14th level, you can now call upon directly your patron for some help. As one action, you can choose a point within 30 feet of you, and your patron busts through the world, and
that's cool.
All of its thalassic grandeur, as the Wizards of the Coast put it, it shows up. It manifests, and you can choose.
That's really cool, just flavor thinking wise. I mean, this Kraken or this Aboleth entity breaks through the plane of the world to do this thing.
Yeah, you're losing against the villain, and you're cackling, and they're like, "Oh, I have you now!" And
I have you now.
The sheen in your glasses shows up, and you push them up a little bit, anime style, and then you just
and the
extend
wind starts
your hand.
blowing around you. Yeah.
And then this happens, and you can either transport or fury. These are the 2 abilities that you get here. Ryan, run us through them.
So transport's probably the really big one here. It allows you to take your buddies, and at least, well, not even, they don't have to be right next to you, within 30 feet, which is a pretty big area. And they get grasped onto by these spectral tentacles and are yanked through the patron's realm, which I think could be really cool. Again, flavor wise, while you're getting plunged through, you can describe what the people see, what the patron has within their realm. And then you get to teleport 100 miles in the vicinity of where you cast this spell that you've at least visited within the last 24 hours. So not just anywhere 100 miles, but somewhere you've been to, and then the tentacles vanish, and that's it. That's huge.
So, thoughts on that?
I think,
Because initially you were like, yeah, I think I need to change that.
yeah. So my thoughts have changed on this, because at first look, and I even have it on my notes here. My first read, I didn't see exactly what level this was, and I reacted like kind of like, wow, that's pretty nutty. That's pretty insane, and it still is pretty big. But at 13th level, druids and other wizards and stuff circuiting able to cast 7th level spells, which has plane shift and other big spells like that. Again, which just take an action, which is not much different than this. You can cast and you'll teleport God knows where. You can teleport to another plane. Here, you're only teleporting 100 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's not as broken as I originally thought it was.
Okay.
Fury's the other abilities. I mean, it's cool, but I think you'd probably be using this for the transport ability.
Yeah, Furies, you can direct a barrage of spectral tentacles, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure style, 30 feet in front of you. So it's a pretty long-ranged attacking spell. Each target must make a dex saving throw or take 60-10 lightning bolt damage, which is a lot. But again, this is functionally adding a lot to the capability of a warlock, I feel. You have a lot more options.
14th level.
It's no longer, I need to really think about what 2 spells I can cast until I need to take a cat nap for an hour. You know?
Yeah.
Warlocks always had to be supplemented by something else.
So are you still pretty nutty? Feel this is pretty nutty, or are you more alright with it?
I'm kind of back down now. I feel that 14th level ability, like compared to some other things. Let's look at the Hexblade. Let me pull this up, because again, these are just overshadowing.
Yeah, it's important to keep in mind what is replacing. So yeah, what's the Hexblade's 14th level here, huh?
Okay, so to give concept for Hexblade, you at level 1 are able to cast a spell or a hex on somebody that enables you to get a crit on 19s and 20s, adds bonus damage, and also lets you gain health whenever you kill something that is cursed by your thing. But it goes away after that, and you have to get a short rest or a long rest. The only point at which that hex really becomes more useful is at level 10 and at level 14. Level 10 is just some extra... It's weird. We'll skip to 14. At level 14, you can, when you're cursed, target dies, move the curse to somebody else.
It's pretty big.
Is it?
The hex you cast though does give you quite a lot of extra damage, so it allows you to continue that extra damage.
I think it's great, but I'm always somebody who enjoys getting another thing rather than improving upon something I've had for probably
I definitely don't think that's
half.
as cool as the other 14th level thing. I mean,
it's like you can do a thing twice now or multiple times.
I mean, even comparing it to the Divine Soul one from the is that what it's called? Celestial Patron from the other page. That allows you to resist death. That 14th level one. So you get it. Instead, if you have a death saving throw, you just can decide to spring back to life, and you regain some hit points. And yeah, your Hexblade kind of sucks, man.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I mean, it's got lots of things.
No, it is really cool. Ryan's like, no, I don't want Braxton. We're not gonna. You don't need to.
No, I think it's important to say, because it's not just because one ability is not as cool. Some other ones, grant you're probably 6th level ability, and other are probably better than that 6th level ability or something.
It really makes me wonder how much thought they put into balancing essentially the enjoyment of these classes, because being able to do bonus damage to a target at level 20 equal to your proficiency bonus, which gets to how much at level 20 or level 14?
It's pretty big.
It's like, it can't be more than like 5.
Yeah, that's still pretty big though.
But an extra 5 damage to something that has probably like 150 health is not a lot.
Yeah, 14th level is plus 5.
So that's
highest it gets is plus 6.
Yeah. So you're doing it at max at level 20, an extra 6 damage with your Hexblade. And then you can... No, it's not.
That is a lot of damage. Think about the amount of attacks that you get, though.
But that's how I've built this class, specifically.
Yeah.
this isn't what they've done. And not to get too salty, so I'll dial back the salt a bit because I'm not of the deep. I'm
We'll have
not
to
a
have a whole
salty kraken.
podcast just on Warlock.
Yeah, and like getting literally doubling your chance to get a crit.
It's interesting. The rage that most classes get is a ranger. Ranger gets a lot of hate.
Yeah,
and you always hate on the Warlock.
Warlocks are cool.
Yeah.
And if it dies, you gain a maximum of your level plus your modifier, so a maximum of 25 hit points back when you kill something. So that's pretty cool. That's all right.
That is
so
cool.
Really, I think that is the best ability with this, is you can continuously get health back. But compare it to summoning the literal maw of your patron to eat and teleport things through its realm is just like...
That is, even just flavor-wise, you can't beat that.
Versus you can shit out another hex on something else.
Ain't nothing wrong with shitting out stuff.
As long as it's within range of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your final thoughts on this Warlock, huh?
Final thoughts on these two is it's like a new cell phone coming out. Like you've got the iPhone
you want to replace,
10 and then the 11 comes out and you're like, but that one has an extra camera. And you're like, do you really need another camera?
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty. I had a knee-jerk reaction to these, like, holy shit, I wish I knew about these when making characters, because
but again,
you spend so long with something.
It's important to remember these are playtest content. I guarantee these will change in some manner, and I'm sure if we don't play with them, we'd say, okay, that's a little broken, maybe we need to change that or something. It's tough to tell, even just reading them. Like reading them is like, oh, they don't seem too terrible for me. Obviously, they definitely do kind of creep a little bit on some of the other abilities from the other subclasses, but I'm interested to see where the final form of these may end up in.
Yeah.
It makes me think more about maybe some cool planar book that's coming out for these things.
I think it could be really cool. Things that dive more into patrons.
Because, there really is, there's not a lot, this is getting away from the Unearthed Arcana stuff, there's not a lot of books talking about the Far Realm, and granted, the Warlock one doesn't really, but I guess you could a little bit, more about the elemental plane and stuff. Even that doesn't have too much, but like the old manual of the planes and stuff, Far Realm does not get too much on it, and I love Far Realm stuff.
Yeah, it is really cool, and
Far Realm, in my world, I didn't call it the Far Realm because I call it the Void. I think it sounds a little cooler. So it's more or less kind of the same stuff in mind, but I've had to kind of make up a lot of my own stuff because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's why I like peeling it back so much.
Yeah, you're diving into it. I like curiosity.
Yes. And
the last thing that this page has is a new cantrip, Mind Sliver.
Oh yeah,
and it's just a nice, cool little ability that, nice to have extra cantrips to do some damage in case you run out of spell slots.
But it makes your opponent make an intelligence saving throw.
But it's also it's not only for Warlock. Sorcerers and wizards can pick it up too.
Lame. We need more Warlock only things.
Oh my goodness, this guy.
Warlock for President 20.
Yeah, but you gotta, like you said, you got Eldritch Blast. Why would you ever need to use something like this?
Exactly. We need Eldritch Blast version 2.
But this does make them have a D4 to subtract from the next save.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
It is very cool. Lots of...
You just gotta pair that with someone else's ability attack.
It can be overwhelming. I think their thought for original 5e was... don't put too many things in there that can scare away new players.
Yeah, they wanted to make it very friendly, which definitely it still is compared to some of the other editions.
But it sours the original handbook when you release bombastic things like this.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what their direction is for the next couple of 5e books.
I know we were thinking about doing a 2-parter on this. Do we have time to start going into Barbarian and Monk? Or
yeah, we might have to do I didn't realize how long these were. We might have to do one for each page that they released here. Now that I look at it, I didn't realize it was going to take us so long.
Well, I think the Barbarian might take a while, but each of these pages probably take about 30 minutes to go through.
You just want to talk about your Pokemon anger?
Oh, God. Yeah, we can go into general game design. Kind of chatting about that.
So next time we'll talk about the Barbarian, Monk, and if we have time, hopefully the Bard and Paladin. I have less thoughts on those because I just love the lore behind these ones we talked about today. so it might be
Yeah,
able to fly by a little easier.
the barbarian's fucking crazy though.
Yeah, that I got some thoughts on.
I got some a lot of thoughts on that. I know they don't get spells,
Yeah, so that's
but
definitely cool, and we'll
it is
hold
cool.
our thoughts on
Yes,
for that.
yes, yes,
But
yes. So Pokemon came out, as you guys know,
Sword and Shield, yeah, yeah.
around the world at 12 p.m. on your local time.
And I've
Whenever it
never
turned
played
the
a
15th.
Pokemon ever.
Yeah, Ryan. So you've never played Pokemon, but you've played JRPGs, right?
Yeah, I played a good chunk.
What's your favorite JRPG?
Ooh,
Like very typical turn-based Final Fantasy style.
well, I mean, honestly, probably Final Fantasy X. Then, trying to think of the other JRPGs I've played.
So what do you like about Final Fantasy X?
I like the story. I like the music. I like the art style. I love the cutscenes. I mean, Final Fantasy's always had amazing cutscenes.
Does the combat scratch an itch for you at all?
Yeah, to a point. I mean, there's lots of options. Like, there's a huge, crazy talent. I mean, have you seen the talent tree for Path of Exile?
No.
Okay, well, it's like that. If anyone's ever seen the Path of Exile, and so it gives you lots of options to go with. But the there's no difficulty option from what I'm aware of, and there's a couple fights that are pretty tough, but the majority of stuff's not too hard. So it's more so just trying to get through it.
Okay. So
I do love JRPG tough combat. That one makes you start thinking.
I think JRPG combat is one of the hardest things to balance.
Yeah.
I really do think that. Like Dragon Quest 11 for the longest time was too easy. But nobody compares Pokemon to any other JRPG. They only compare Pokemon to itself.
Interesting.
Now that creates a weird ecosystem for Pokemon because every game that comes out, it's Pokemon. You know, Pokemon has never been
Persona
crazy.
4, that's probably my favorite, actually, now I think about it.
Persona 4 is cool. The combat I actually don't like that much in that game.
Yeah, I don't like Persona combat's not great either, but I love the tunes.
Yes. So this Pokemon game has some tunes. Some bangers.
Sure, yeah.
Others aren't great. It's got a lot of Pokemon. Like there's a good amount of new ones. More so than I've seen in a lot of games. The first region alone had only new Pokemon, and I was like a kid in a candy shop because I hadn't seen anything. This is all brand new for me. So that was fun. But as you start going, you notice there are less and less trainers to run into on the routes, and the routes being the place that takes you from town A to town B, from the fire gym to the water gym. Maybe there's some crazy story stuff, or you meet your rival along the way and you have a great battle with them. But it's oversaturated, not because there's so much in it, but because the groundwork is so small and minuscule that you run into your rival. No, you run into your rival like probably 10 or 12 times in the game, and you have several rivals. And it feels as though you could hold forward and tap A and make it through the game without any thought. There's no thought to playing.
A little too user friendly.
A little bit. They got rid in the beginning of the hand holding, like having to watch somebody catch a Pokemon. That's always been a staple. You always had to watch somebody catch a Pokemon, and you always had a fight with your rival as soon as you got your starter Pokemon. And some things they did in the beginning was really great, but it's very hand-holdy the whole time. There's this large zone called the Wild area that you can pop in, and it's kind of RPG. That's the open world. It's like an open world pocket. Rather than the entire game being open world, you've got the traditional route-based Pokemon map with a disconnected area of different leveled zones where Pokemon can be really high levels and you can try to defeat them and gain a lot of XP. That's really cool. But through that, you can end up getting over-leveled, and the game can be way too easy, even easier than it already is. And it feels, for the lack of whatever they had in the actual towns and the routes, they compensated by throwing this massive... They just shat out this area and said, hey, go crazy, here's all your diversity. I want that in the game. I want to have wild areas on the routes, not just as a giant thing below all of the cool stuff that I can go to if I want to get away.
You finished it, right? You said?
Quote unquote. There's always a very small post game in Pokemon, but I beat the champion and the Pokemon League.
So you finished the main stuff.
So I finished the main thing. For the most part, I didn't lose a single battle, and I even turned on one of the options. Usually, in a main series Pokemon game, when you're not fighting somebody online, if you kill or KO somebody's Pokemon, the game tells you what they're about to send out, and you can swap a Pokemon to match that if you want. In online, you don't know. That's essentially like getting two actions in D&D for layman's terms for us that are listening for D&D. So it's weird that you're able to do this. So I turned that off. It made it kind of hard-ish. The only challenge that is presented in the game is when you finally face the champion, because at that point, my Pokemon were 56 through 60, that level, sort of, and everybody else was around 58 to 52. So it was pretty easy. You do a story thing, you fight the legendary, and it's level 60, and then you get to the champion, and his Pokemon are freaking level 62 through like 68. Which, in Pokemon terms, Ryan, if somebody's 10 levels above you, you're getting fucked.
Okay. No matter
so
what.
That was, yeah, maybe. I was challenged, and it was me versus his last Pokemon, which is really exciting. But
it's the tension up.
Ryan, what if you played a D&D campaign with no story fulfillment, intense battles, or really anything that culminated until it's been 2 years and you finally killed the main boss? Everything else is a cakewalk. Yeah. It's like that. I want more milestones to overcome. I want my rival battle to be tough. I don't want to have to wait for everybody on the routes to have 6 Pokemon. I know there's some people
not really progressing or anything.
No, in a Pokemon game, Ryan, if you've never played one, and I know I'm talking a lot here.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, but I have a lot of thoughts on this. You start off, and right away you can catch as many Pokemon as you want, but no trainer you run into has more than 1 to 2 until you get to level 30, and then at level 30 it's like 2 to 3, and nobody, unless they're a gym leader, has 4 Pokemon, or they're your rival until near end game. And at that point, you've had 6 Pokemon since probably level 10. Probably. I know there are some people that create a difficulty on their own. There's that freedom that's created by only using 2 Pokemon. But the thing that comes about with that is if you're only using 2 Pokemon, they're going to be so vastly over-leveled because of the XP economy that you're not spreading through 4 other Pokemon that it's still going to be easy for you. You'll be restricted by type advantages and disadvantages. But overall, I think Pokemon has been more and more targeted to a younger audience that will play this game and have a great time with it. I find that
really interesting, though, because the younger audience that got into it is no longer young anymore, but they still want to play it.
Yeah, but those people's kids are now playing it and having the experience that we did when we were younger. Because Pokemon games weren't hard when we were younger. We think that it was. We think that they were. Black and White, outside of that, because those games were a decent challenge. But we enjoyed them so much because we were kids and we hadn't played anything like this before. So it had an inherent amount of difficulty to us at that time. And I think people will play these games and think that way and get to our age as they are 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 right now and think that these games were masterpieces. And I think it's a good game for somebody that enjoys Animal Crossing or things like that because you can pet your Pokemon. You can really have a lot more time to... Yeah, there's great little flavored things like that where you can really enjoy spending time with these Pokemon that somebody lovingly designed.
But it's just not challenging.
Really shitty designs, but it's not challenging. It's like having. I prefer a good mixture of D&D where there's role playing combat. It's like 100% role play that is lukewarm with 0 good combat.
Yeah, it's just not scratching any itches.
Yeah, and during this development, we had kind of a No Man's Sky PR situation. They said. Now, this isn't a big deal. The models they have in the 3DS games are fine. That they weren't going to make new models for every Pokemon for this giant jump in hardware. But they did not. They are the exact same models.
Oh, wow.
They said they were going to focus on animations because they cut half of the entire Pokedex. Now, usually, for the main story, you only have access to the local Pokedex, which is about 1/4 to 1/2 of every Pokemon that's been created. And then when you beat the game, you get access to the national dex, and every Pokemon kind of roams around the entire world, which is, at this point, 800-something Pokemon, I think, near 1,000. I think that's a lot to juggle, and I support cutting it to focus on quality. None of that quality came through. None of it. There was the wild area, which people are saying is where some of the effort went through, but I see that as a tacked on thing to compensate. That's my point of view on it.
Yeah, I
There's the
remember
camping
people
and the
being real
curry.
excited for this, and then all
Yeah.
that stuff started coming out, and just the tides quickly flipped on it.
Yeah. And a Pokemon game usually has 4 to 5 years of development. This one had less. It did. 3 years or so. And it shows. I think it's a good game for the cycle that they had, but I think Pokemon needs to start being compared to things like Dragon Quest, because this story was non-existent. Usually, you've got your goal to become champion, and then you've got an evil team doing something that you're constantly interacting with to defeat or battle or thwart their plans. And then you've got your gym battle. They were separate things that kind of culminated at the end at the league battle, sometimes interrupting your fight with the champion. This happened in that, but during the entire game, there's such a focus on the competitive nature and the excitement of now fighting in stadiums, which is a new thing, having a crowd cheering you on like in football or soccer. But there is no story. The whole thing is you holding forward, tapping A, and running into your rivals with some professor coming up to you or Sonia talking to you about, this vague legend. It's like in D&D, your DM says, "Oh, there was this hero that saved the land in the past," and they don't tell you anything else.
Yeah, well, it's nothing for you to, as a player, to emotionally grasp onto. You don't care. Like, why should I care about this crap?
And it's that description, like great hero saved the land, for the entire time until you start getting into the league, which is the very end. You fight through 8 gyms. That took me probably 15 hours. The last 5 hours of the game was me going through this league challenge as I got periodically interrupted. And I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible by what actually is the bad guy. And it's not a lot. It's this super half-baked, tacked on as much as possible to this league challenge, which shows me that they tried their best to make a solid experience with as little resources or as little paths as possible. They said, we're going to have a league, and the more we can incorporate a very small story into that, the better, because that means we don't have to plan an entire thing outside.
Well, let's think about that on the flip side there. I remember you played the hell out of Fire Emblem, and I can imagine it's probably because I remember you talking about all the time, like, what this path leads to and what that, so the story obviously is what really grabbed onto. Obviously the combat was engaging, but the story helped the combat be meaningful. You wanted to keep going through it.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not here in this.
No, not in this one.
Now, Pokemon is the top grossing media franchise of all time,
which is
on
insane.
Our planet.
I mean, that has been around a while.
It's been around since we were born.
Yeah.
It is our years old. It's like 22-ish. But it's time. It was good that this happened, because hopefully Game Freak will either expand and stop operating like an indie studio, which
is
nothing against indie
developers?
Studios. Yes.
Oh,
the same developers the whole time. The entire time. And the original games are so great because they're so simpler, and I'm not a quote-unquote Gen 1er who glorifies that. I really enjoy games like Diamond and Pearl and Black and White. I think those were perfect. I loved them a lot.
What's your favorite?
I loved Emerald for the longest time, but I think Platinum was my favorite. That one and Black and White. But Platinum takes a cake because it was the first time I was cognizant and like really understood Pokemon and started seeing its flaws. I want a Pokemon game that has the great quirky, petting your Pokemon, mind-numbing activity, and a decent challenge outside of just the champion.
I mean, I would say, because you could argue that it's not possible, but I think it definitely is, because like with I haven't played them, but like the newer Nintendo games that still cater to the younger audience, like Mario and whatnot, they still, like the newer Mario game, from what I've seen, still has a lot of engaging content for older people as well. It's got some challenge. It's got some legs to stand on there.
Yeah, you kind of adjust the challenge for Pokemon once you start realizing how easy it is. Like, you're never going to have your entire team be knocked out. So it's like, oh, I really don't want my one Pokemon to faint. That's your defeat. But you still win the fight. Dragon Quest starts you fighting slimes, and you kill them in one hit, and it's super easy, but it escalates at some point and gets pretty decently tough into the post-game. It's pretty hard. It's not the most complicated thing, but I would enjoy it if Pokemon had more depth to it at some point. If you want to stop making Pokemon, go for it. It can, but the dichotomy they have between competitive fighting and the story-based stuff, and these are my final thoughts, is too strong. You can use items like full restores, which heal your Pokemon completely in the base game. You can use max revives to revive your Pokemon. You can use several items that alter your fighting, and you're never going to lose to the champion because you have like 42 max revives. No, so even if he kills your best Pokemon, you're down to 1, you can revive everybody else. In competitive gaming, you can't use any of that.
I mean, there isn't a difficulty on Pokemon, is there?
There was in Black and White, but you had to beat the game first, and it was an easier option.
Oh. So I feel like that could solve a lot of the issues.
It could, but would that amount to just increasing the level of everything?
Sure, yeah, like the health or something. Yeah.
Like, that would be lame. I want AI that have, like, even if you want to make fewer fights, work with some of the people on the competitive teams to take into account what you can use in the base game, healing, things like that, and design trainers and battles that have more than just a type difference. Like, make a gym leader that focuses on using really defensive Pokemon, and if you have very fast Pokemon that only poke around at things, you're going to have a hard time. Make other aspects of a trainer challenging. That's my final thought on it. It's just too easy. It was half-baked, and there wasn't a lot to it.
Oh, man, let that translate to your D&D games, guys. You want to make sure the story's engaging, and I mean, we've talked about this before. We'll have a whole podcast, and at some point, make sure combat's engaging, too. Make it complex and interesting.
We'll get into combat at one point. We've been talking about it for a bit,
thoughts.
But obviously you can see that I am very interested in having both roleplay, but also satisfying combat.
That's good to think about while you're playing games and stuff.
Going from Fire Emblem into Pokemon's crazy. And granted, Fire Emblem are very few units you can use with a lot of attention to detail to the nuances of those characters versus Pokemon, which has to shit out several to dozens of new Pokemon every generation. They are divided quite thinly, and I respect them for what they tried to do. They didn't go about it the greatest way this time around.
Well, there's always next time.
There is always next time. And next time we'll probably cover, like we said, the other classes, being Barbarian and Monk. Barbarian being kind of controversial. But my sick and tired throat is telling me to stop talking about Pokemon and being salty about Warlock.
And drink some tea and rest your throat.
Yeah, I've got work tomorrow. I actually took off today to relax, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, yeah. We've been to Dungeon Crawl.
Yeah, you took it away.
We never even introduced ourselves. I'm Ryan.
I'm Sick. Also known as Braxton.
Yeah, follow us on the old Twitterverse at at Dungeon Crawl Pod, and send us your hate mail at thedungeoncrawlpod@gmail.com. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes, and even while you're rating us 5 stars, tell us how much you hate the podcast, or tell us why Warlock is that much better than we say it is.
Some cold medicine.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, wish me luck at work.
Yeah, we'll see you next week for some more Unearthed Arcana chat, and maybe some more judgments on Pokemon. We'll see.
If you want to find out why the monk new class is literally JoJo or Stand or Susanoo from Naruto.
That's what I've been hearing.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, watch it.
See you on the flip side.
Take care.